Welcome to Worship 2.0 podcast, and today we are blessed to have with us the worship leader for that great project, Firm Foundation, John Chisum. He actually wrote 6 of the songs that are on there. Welcome, John. Good to have you with us today.
Hey, David, and hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. It's good to have you around.
Yeah, what did that opening song from Firm Foundation bring back any memories for you?
Oh, my gosh. You know, I've gone all around the world singing that song, and it never fails to just bring joy to my heart and to know that God's blessed it so much. I only wish I had written it.
Well, you wrote 6 of them on there. I mean, some of my favorites. I love the Firm Foundation, which goes into We Rejoice. I Look to You. That's a great song. I Offer My Life. Almighty Cross. I love that one. And Only Jesus, another great one. So those are some of my favorites from that. But just, I think, a powerful album. And I know Don Harris arranged that one. Now, where was that recorded? At a church somewhere? I've got the CD in front of me.
Yeah, it was actually recorded, for those of you on the inside of the Integrity Hosanna family back in the day. There was a church pretty much on the premises of Integrity that Integrity started out of, called the Covenant Church. And they had an auditorium that we actually used for staff meetings when the company was at its height. And we recorded it there. We had a congregation, and it was a really exciting night.
Oh, now is that the church that Mike Coleman went to?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great church.
Some of the OG back in the day, back in the 70s and 80s, and it was a pivotal church there for a while.
Yeah. So, I'm looking at the cover. I see you're got a nice picture there on John. Looks. I see. Compare that to what I saw on your website. So you haven't aged very much, John. You're just...
David, I hope I've improved a little bit through these years, but we're at our 30-year anniversary of Firm Foundation at this point, and little known fact, because nobody really heard much of it, but I did a 25th anniversary single with that song, and my staff and I are talking about doing a 30-year anniversary single of that song as well. So just to kind of freshen it up and get it back out there.
Well, there you go. Like I say now, and that was written, Nancy Gordon and Jamie Harville.
Yeah, beautiful people, dear friends to this day. I've written hundreds of songs with Nancy and a few songs with Jamie, and they had written that song for a different project that it didn't make it on. And boy, am I thankful, because it was the perfect one for me and just epitomized the message of the gospel in my own life, that Jesus is my strength and my hope. And, to this day, just really find tremendous joy in that. And they're 2 incredible writers, and I manage them. Your listeners might not know that I actually worked at Integrity for about 5 years, I think it was. And during my tenure there, I got to be the worship leader on this album, and just so grateful for them and for all the other writers that I got to manage. I was working with Don Moen, of course, and Paul Baloche signed Paul to his contracts there. Ed Carr. Of course, Don Harris, the arranger producer of Firm Foundation, and so many more. And guys, if you're listening, I'm sorry if I left you out of the list, but Lynn DeShazo, who wrote More Precious Than Silver. Gosh, we had about 18 writers on the roster back at that time.
Yeah.
It was just fun. I got to be a writer and a worship leader, of course. So just a powerful time.
Well, and this, the I Look to You, that's Gary Sadler did that one. And
Gary lives about 2 miles from me now, and just so many great songs from Gary. Yeah, Gary, I hope you never hear this podcast and realize I didn't say you in the list. But
and I see David Baroni. You co-wrote that Almighty Cross with David Baroni. We had David Baroni at our church years ago too. Yeah.
Yeah, David, bless his heart. David is a dear friend, and he lives not too far south of me now. We're in the Nashville area, and so it's tons of great writers. David and his wife, we saw them recently, and actually did a night of worship at a church that David and I both served here in the Nashville area back in the day called Bethel World Outreach. And David is suffering with Parkinson's, and so appreciate your prayers for David. And we did just a night of celebration, all of David Baroni songs, and I got to sing Almighty Cross and so many other wonderful worship songs. So,
well, and I was excited to know a little bit about what you're doing these days. Fill Hosanna Nation in on what you are doing and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, thank you, David. We're in our 10th anniversary year for a coaching and resource company called Nashville Christian Songwriters. And you can find us at NashvilleChristiansongwriters.com. Our podcast is called Song Revolution with John Chisum. And the story is I had been serving a church in the Midwest. And when that came to a close in the end of 2014, I had no clue what I was going to do. And Nashville had been home for a lot of years, but we'd been away for a significant period of time. And the only direction we had was go home to Nashville and I'll show you what to do. Came back to Nashville, and the music business had changed. I'd been vice president of publishing for the Gaithers for a number of years. I'd been at Integrity Hosanna for a number of years, and then just kind of out of the business side of music, even though I've been in ministry constantly, traveling all over the world, mostly singing Firm Foundation and a lot of those songs, and I've done a few independent records, but came back to Nashville and just did not know immediately what God wanted us to do. And I was meeting with a business coach every week, and by the end of our meeting, I'd drive home and I didn't want to do whatever it was we decided I was going to do. And I just felt kind of lost. And after about 8 months of that, my business coach just pretty much reamed me out about how selfish I was for not sharing 35 years of music business experience and my songwriting success and all the management I'd done. And I went home and I thought, well, goodness, if I'm going to share some of this knowledge, what would I do? And I thought, well, I'll just do a little seminar or something, and I'll find a URL for it. I was typing in different URLs, and I put in Nashville Christian Songwriters, and I thought, no way that URL is available. And it was. The .com was available for $13, and I bought it, and it just exploded in my heart what I was supposed to do, and that was 10 years ago. We now have a lot of free material on the website, blogs and articles and giveaways, but I have a podcast with 190 episodes. I've had people like Don Moen, Matt Maher, Kim Walker-Smith, who else? Goodness. Still trying to get Paul Balash on, man. That guy's cagey. And I do a lot of teaching. I've had a lot of big names on it, but my heart's been to teach. And so we now have coaching programs and artist development programs. And like I said, we're going into our 10th year. We have a record label where we're actually releasing music. I have a lot of new music on there that a lot of my legacy Firm Foundation listeners, I hope they will tap into. Some of it's a little different. Not all of it is straight ahead worship like the Firm Foundation, but I'm writing more music. I'm releasing more music than I have in decades. And really, David, I'm having the time of my life. And you can find all of that on all the streaming outlets. And I've been joking with people that I am in my pop years because I'm having some fun with some styles that I'd never really tried before. And it's just really a lot of fun. I'd welcome your feedback on some of that when you have a chance to listen to it. But it's a lot of fun. And I'm coaching songwriters and artists all over the world. So God's really given us a global reach, and a global ministry at this season in life is just really exciting.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because we talked a little bit, before the podcast, but crafting a song crafting a song. Anybody that has any kind of a music background, they can sort of put three chords together and whatever. But then there are those that really, it's like I say, a good song has no expiration date. A good song has no expiration date. And so I'm glad to hear what you're doing, and I definitely like to check it out. And I'm glad that you're really helping to train people into what is a good song. How can I write a good song? And that kind of thing is very, very much needed. Which brings me to my next question for you, and is what is your perspective on where worship is at these days in the local church?
Well, I think I'd love to maybe answer that question in context with what you were just mentioning about crafting a song and what a great song is, right? Because things change, styles change, right. Culture changes, leaders change, leadership changes. And, your definition, my definition of what makes a great song great these days, might be different from a lot of people, and especially a lot of younger people who've come up in the digital age and who have basically the power of a whole record label in their hand, with their phones. And so, I have built Nashville Christian Songwriters really on the premise that I learned from Bill Gaither. As I said earlier, I had the privilege of working with the Gaithers for about 7 years. I grew up to be VP of publishing and managed a lot of writers at that company and was a writer and wound up getting songs recorded by the Gaithers, Gaither Vocal Band, people, Southern Gospel, people like the Cathedrals. One of my top copyrights was a song called Canny Cootie Woody that has been a staple for that group while they existed, and one of my top copyrights. But and then other people like First Call back in the day, and other notables from that era before I went to Integrity Music, and then had our basically just such a golden time in the 90s with songs that are still so beautiful and so resonant today. Of course, the Gaithers are in their 90s, almost, I think late 80s, and they're still touring. They're still impacting, not only just older generations, but leaving definitely a mark on even younger generations with a lot of the people that they've supported and, and even discovered through the years. And that list is very, very long.
Yep.
But Gaither, I had the privilege of being mentored and coached by them and other folks whose names you might not know, but they were very pivotal, important figures in the burgeoning Christian music business back then. But when I would show Bill a song, one of the things he would ask me without fail was, who's going to care about this song in 100 years? And that's a deeply impacting statement or question, because I had never really thought about it, because I loved Jesus. I loved God. We didn't talk so much about worship and worship leading back then. That whole movement hadn't totally, I guess it was starting with Integrity, but it wasn't as huge as it became and still is today. Right. So we weren't writing the more repetitive styles, but Gaither taught me to identify a big idea. We always talked about that. What's the big idea? Today when I teach it, I talk about the OBI, the one big idea. And he taught me to look for the hook, to look for the title that would be so far above run-of-the-mill titles that the idea was so big that people could not help but be attracted to and love it. And you think about their catalog of songs, there's just something about that name, or Because He Lives, we have this moment.
The King is coming.
The King is coming, and on and on and on. And so I was able to learn that principle, to gain that insight, and to go on to write songs like "Oh Mighty Cross," and to become a successful publisher with the Gaithers and then with Integrity and now with our own company. That and that's one of the foundational insights, is that I always go back to a million times a day, not only when I'm writing, but when I'm working with a writer, is what is that one big idea? And is it a great idea? Is it a huge idea? Is it an idea that's big enough to hang a whole song on, right?
Right.
And so many of the songs I've been able to write and publish have been successful because of that, but also these young writers that I'm coaching these days, to see them really come alive with that and then begin to self edit, to really understand, oh, wait a minute, I might think that's a cool idea, but who's going to care about that idea in 100 years? And Almighty Cross that I did write with David Baroni, it's already in a couple of hymnals, and not that hymnals are going to define whether it's around in 100 years, but to have a song in a hymnal and you're not even dead yet, that's a pretty big accomplishment in my book.
Yep.
So that really is the context, for me, for worship and worship songwriting and worship ministry. So I really don't feel that I can make an all-encompassing judgment or even total comment on where worship is these days. I think that, I know my preferences.
Yeah.
I know that there is quite a bit of it as I review it that I think, where's the idea? Where's the hook? And where's the depth in a particular lyric? And I understand why we've gotten here and how we've gotten here. And I understand that, when you look at just pop culture itself and you look at how much of that has infiltrated, even in our day, I mean, come on, even in the 90s, we were the commercial, I don't want to say commercialization, but we were definitely, on it's hard to call it edgy now, but we definitely were breaking through. I mean, in 94, Integrity was the first company that I know of that put a female worship leader out there with Darlene Check.
Yep.
And Shout to the Lord. And that would hardly be edgy now. But boy, was that ever edgy then, even in 94. And the drums and Ron Kenoly, and all of that. I mean, that was considered pretty edgy back then. But I think what we had going were Gary Sadler, Jamie Harville song, Ancient of Days, just so hooky, so cool, so
Right.
good. And that song can even stand up today, right?
Right.
So for me, I hear people in contemporary Christian music. Some of them, for me, have lasting value as a song. Some of them do not, and I do know many of the CCM artists, and I know that many of them have a lot of depth in their spirituality, a depth in their relationship with Christ. But the radio format calls for something that is a little less heady and a little more repetitive and hooky, and all that, and that's fine. When I look at the different worship ministries around, whose names I won't mention, some of them feel like they have more depth than others. But I understand the culture that they're dealing with now.
Right.
And I know that, there's a bit of a hearkening back to, the 90s in a lot of corners. This corner I'm in with you being one of them. And I think it's awesome and it's wonderful. But I think it might be a little naive for us to think that a lot of the younger people who are steeped in an instant, a different culture, right?
Right.
It's like it's like I just love them, respect them for where they are, And then as I have the opportunity, which I amazingly do, we're working with a young ministry out of Birmingham Theological Seminary. They're a group that's kind of tied in with the Presbyterian Church, PCA, and I have the privilege of being their executive producer on their music. They're called the Ezra Worship Initiative. And if you go to their EzraWorship.com and you listen to the songs that we're working with, you'll hear the remnant of what I was doing in the 90s with Integrity. You'll hear great titles, great hooks like, O Cherished Cross of Christ. You'll hear a lot more theology in that, or go to Spotify and look up Ezra Worship Initiative. And I have the privilege of really influencing a new stream of music that really, really has what I think that you and the audience that would love Worship 2.0, that you'll hear that there is a bit of a return to that. You look at people like Sandra McCracken and Kevin Twitt of the Reformed University Fellowship, Indelible Grace, and there's a talk about a return to hymnody. Oh my gosh, I mean, it's powerful. They've got thousands and thousands of followers. So I don't think it's fair to pick out maybe one worship ministry or two and say it's not deep, when there's so many nooks and crannies in worship, right? So it's hard. I guess what I'm saying, David, is it's hard for me to say worship movement today and it being one thing because it's so diverse, right?
Now, what is the URL for them that they can go to your website there?
Our site?
Yeah.
Oh, our site or the Ezra site?
Well, your site. So if people want to go to your site.
Our site is NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com, and you can find our podcast there. You can find our podcast, Song Revolution, anywhere. We do have it on our site as well. But so we want to continue to promote depth and great theology and great musicianship in everything we do, and it's wonderful to be able to do that through songwriting.
Well, I appreciate your giving us your insight today, John. And once again, and that Firm Foundation project, that's one of my favorite projects too. So, matter of fact, I think what better way to close the podcast out than one of my favorite songs we talked about, Almighty Cross. So, John, thanks for being with us today. Hope we can get you back again sometime.
My pleasure, David, and God bless everyone listening today.
Okay. We hope that you'll spread the word about Worship 2.0, where our mission is to help people everywhere, at any time, experience the presence of God. Have a great day.